Welcome to the Breakfast Club's Inner Sanctum.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us in the Sanctum today, and it's nice to be joined by the big man from the Kangaroos, Todd Goldstein, who's back again. Good morning, Todd.
Morning, Half. How you going?
I'm going very well. How are you?
Yeah, going well.
So you're 0-7, right? And you played Melbourne on the weekend at Blundstone Arena in Hobart. And I thought you were going to win that game. What did it feel like to you during that game?
Yeah, the first half was a great feeling. I think we were playing the sort of footy that we wanted to play. We were playing with the sort of competitiveness and the sort of really having a crack that we've been looking for the last 6 weeks before that. So it was really good reward for especially the young guys to experience what it feels like to play our way, to play a team game,
Yep.
and to get rewarded for that. I don't think we've got the reward over the last few weeks that we probably deserve. So it was really good to experience that. But in the end, I think it came down to that, as a side, we need to learn how to finish a game off and how to win footy.
So I remember Jimmy Bartell talking about this on one of our Monday footy reviews a couple of weeks ago. He can see what David Noble's trying to do. You can see the progressions along the way. Now, that doesn't mean you get the wins. Clearly, it hasn't happened just yet. And that's hard to stomach sometimes from a fan's perspective and probably, I'm sure, players as well. But are you gaining confidence in what you've got at the Kangaroos now, what you saw on the weekend against the series footy team in Melbourne?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, we focused a lot on the little wins and the small areas that we can start making gains in. And I think each week you can see that getting better and better. So that's been the focus for the coaches. And, obviously coming up against a really good stoppage team on the weekend, our stoppages have been pretty terrible for the last few weeks going into that. So it was a really good challenge for all of us. And just to see the, 1 week of really focusing on that area, how much improvement we got in our structures and the way we played out those areas was really pleasing.
It's one of the things, isn't it, playing sport, no matter what level it is, being able to execute when the moment comes. Is there an element of that with this group, being able to continue to do those things when you kind of think, oh, hang on, this might actually be going the way we want it to?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that just consistency over 4 quarters. And, you need to try to take out the scoreboard and not worry too much about it and just play what's in front of you. And I think possibly at half time we might have got a little bit comfortable. I don't think we did. I don't think we tried to, but subconsciously that might have happened, and we did fall away from what we want to do, especially in that third quarter, and unfortunately gave them a bit of momentum, which probably took the game a little bit out of reach for us. But I think it's a good learning curve to show us that we can do it for 2 really good quarters against a side that's arguably the best in the competition at the moment. So that was the pleasing side of it, and it's saying we got to build on to do that for the whole 4 quarters.
Is there strategies that you individually or as a team put into place? Because I know we often hear people saying, "Don't worry about the score; it's all even. We're just wanting to take each moment as it comes." Is there something that you do to try and keep your mind in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, for us, what we probably didn't do a good enough job of is probably remind each other about what our focus areas are and making that the goal, not worrying about that whether your opponent's kicked 2 goals in a row or we've kicked 2 goals in a row. It's about, just the little reminders that we had pre-game that there's probably, some games there's probably 3 or 4 key words that you can just keep reiterating to your teammates and to your line groups just to keep the task-oriented focus.
Yep.
And I think that's the key and something we got to keep working on.
You had an amazing challenge on Sunday because you had Max Gawn, All-Australian Ruckman, to contend with, and you've had plenty of battles with him over the years. And then you also have young Luke Jackson coming through, completely different Ruckman to deal with. How do you go in that situation? Do you study both as like the same amount of time, or can you spend more time studying Luke because you know what Max is like? What's that like?
No, I think we probably spent a fair bit of time looking at both of them. I think with Anthony Rocker as our new ruck coach, he likes to do a ruck preview and sit down and work through each of our opponents or anyone we might get. So we probably look at them fairly evenly, but I think you probably have a little bit of prior knowledge against Max, where I've only played Luke once. It was I sort of knew a little bit more what to expect from Max, whereas I think Luke, you can, the more you play him, you get the idea, but watching Vision, you can't get a real feel of his movement and how much he contrasts Max's style. So I think that was probably the challenge of me on the weekend, was just trying to deal and trying to mentally switch between the 2 different styles.
Because they're so different, and the split, it wasn't like it was a 90-10 split, particularly I think it was the third quarter where Luke spent a lot of time in the ruck. How challenging is that for you, where you're kind of taking on two, and they're so different?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, probably in the hit-outs wise and things, I think was okay, but it's I think the way Luke plays as another midfield and the way he just explodes off the ground, and being a young kid, he's got that little bit more explosion than us older guys. You could definitely see the difference, and I think he was one of the ones that really turned the game. So I'm not too sure on review what I could have done differently, but I think definitely the contrasting styles makes them a pretty formidable team.
Probably shouldn't have played so well against Max, because it meant then that Luke got in.
Max hits a little bit harder than Luke does, so I'll take the few less hits.
But he was a bit flat yesterday, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, when he spoke about having to almost rip himself out of the game because he's getting pants by you.
I'll take that. He's pants me plenty of times, so if he felt that way, I'll take it.
Did what Luke bring? Was that a surprise for you?
I think it wasn't so much a surprise. I knew what he was trying to do, but I think the way he was able to execute it and the difficulty it was to try to take that away from him, I think I probably underestimated just how difficult that was. I think overall I did all right against him, but it was I think I was a little bit surprised just how well he executed it.
Ben Cunnington, we talked about Ben last time he came in, and you're talking about how people forget how good he is because he only played 3 games last year. But his last 2 weeks have been quite remarkable, and particularly on the weekend against Melbourne. Have you been surprised at how well he has come back?
Not really. I mean, we talk a lot. We spend a lot of time together, and I think I could see, especially second half of last year and into pre-season, how much hunger he had and how much he missed playing footy. And I think that's a really good sign for someone like Ben, who, he's obviously quite laid back, but he was very, very intense about how much he wanted to play. So I was expecting. I probably thought it might have taken him a few more weeks than it has to get back to his best. But I think what you can't underestimate about Ben is I'm not sure if he'd like me saying this, but he lost his granddad leading into the Freo game. So to be able to play as well as he did against Freo, given the circumstances, and then this week he had the funeral at the end of the week just before the Melbourne game, so he was dealing with a lot, and you would have seen his celebration after his first goal.
Yeah.
So that he had a lot of emotions going through. So for him to be able to perform the way he did, and really just tough it out, because anyone that's lost anyone close to him, and he was very, very close to his granddad, it was a pretty amazing effort by Ben. You can't underestimate. Just takes out his performance to another level, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. Is he the guy that who's out for a while and comes back in? There's a massive lift in the group because he's the one, almost spiritual leader, probably to a degree as well. Is he one of those guys at the Kangaroos, Ben Cunnington?
Yeah, he's definitely one of those players that when he's out there, you do stand that little bit taller because you know what you're going to get from him, and it takes away that bit of uncertainty around what's around you. So I think having someone like Ben stand up definitely makes a huge difference to us, and you could see, and it allows other players to play more their role. So it allows us now to let Jai Simpkin play a little bit of inside and outside footy, whereas last year he was pretty much solely inside. So and I think getting someone like Jed Anderson back, hopefully in a month or two, will help again, because it allows our younger guys who probably are ready to play outside footy, but still trying to find their feet inside to give them a little bit more freedom. So that's what someone like Ben does.
So speaking of those younger guys, Big Rouge just sent an SMS in. Less Luke Jackson talk, more Tom Powell talk. The kids' numbers are elite for a 7-gamer. I was going to ask you about the kids and which ones are you seeing that have really exploded so far this season. Obviously, Tom Powell's one of those young men who's having a huge influence on the season and your team. But which ones are you impressed with?
Yeah, I think the 3 that we've got mainly playing at the moment in Tom, Will Phillips, and Charlie Lazaro, I think the way they've all come in, obviously a lot of them didn't play a lot of footy last year.
Yep.
So to be able to come in and start performing really well has been really impressive. I think obviously Tom is the standout of them, and just the way he's coming to the midfield, and we've obviously got quite a young midfield and quite a new midfield. He's really, really doing unbelievably well. But even someone like Charlie Lazaro, whose possessions and stuff haven't been probably where he'd like them to be, but just the pressure and those 1% acts that he does is really leading the way for our forward line.
Todd, I don't think we've caught up with you since you came back from Perth and had to go into your 14-day, which wasn't 14 days in the end, quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
What was that experience like? I know there was so much uncertainty last year and potentially in a way you're a bit used to that uncertainty, but what was that like having to come back and think that was ahead of you again?
Yeah, it was a challenging week. I think
Because how long you actually were in a quarantine?
We found out about that there was a case in WA as we were waiting to take off. So that's when we read the articles, and I think the press conference from the Premier over there happened about half an hour after we landed. So there was a lot going on, a lot of probably mental demons were there for players, and with all the uncertainty of going, well, we didn't know whether we were going to be able to get back home. We didn't know whether whether the game was going ahead for a period of time there. So, we were locked up in the hotel for the whole pre-game, and which was obviously changed our preparation a bit. And then coming home, we obviously had a couple of COVID tests. We just didn't quite know. I mean, my wife had to move out of the house with our 1-year-old for 3 days so she could attend the hospital and things like that. So there were a lot of unintended consequences, which I think made it really challenging for a lot of players. And a lot of our staff, our part-time staff that were over there, couldn't go to their normal jobs because of it. So it was definitely challenging, and we were very concerned about what was going to happen because 2 weeks in there, what effect that was going to have on the season, on our preparation and all that sort of stuff. We couldn't see our other teammates till I think it was the Thursday. Yeah, right. So it was nearly a week till we could see our teammates. So it was a challenging few days, that's for sure.
Were you a bit miffed? Sorry, can I just jump in? Were you a bit miffed because of the 3-day lockdown in Perth and you have to quarantine for 14 days in Melbourne? It didn't make much sense at the time. Thankfully, you didn't have to go through the whole period. But were you a bit miffed that, hang on a second?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously a challenge. It was a bit strange going that we were still in quarantine when everyone in Perth were allowed out of their houses for, I think they had about 36 hours head start on us on when they could come out. So that was a bit strange, and we obviously understand the complexities of the situation for all the various governments. But I think it was hard to stomach for a lot of us that we were in that situation, and I think we in hindsight we would have loved to have probably avoided that situation.
So does that mean you now going forward don't want to see your teammates for a few days going into a game? Because you did all right on the weekend. That kind of
worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we don't have any injuries, it might work out all right and we can keep our form. But it was nice to see everyone. Everyone was pretty excited to see everyone on the Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about the injuries, because I think it's been understated a little bit at North Melbourne. You've got a lot, and it's really putting a lot of pressure on your list at the moment. I don't know how many you've got available each week, but we saw the impact on the VFL team from last week. So how hard is that to develop under David Noble, this new style, when so many aren't actually even on the training track to develop?
Yeah, I think the biggest effect on us is possibly just being able to, the amount of senior players we've been able to surround around a Tom Powell and a Will Phillips. When you have someone like a Robbie Tarrant, who's been a pillar for us for a decade in defence, and Aidan Core with him. You got Jed Anderson can come into midfield and help out our younger midfielders. It makes such a difference. I think overall the training stuff isn't too bad because they're all in the meetings, they're all learning as we go, and they're sitting down and going through a lot of vision with the coaches. But I think it's just being able to surround those mature bodies, mature minds around the young kids is probably something that we thought we'd have, and we have a fairly good core of older players, and I think we would have planned on having most of them available. We can't plan on having everyone, but we would have had most of them available, which would have definitely, I think, given us a little bit more consistency and a lot of more protection, so these young kids didn't have to do as much as they are.
We've got a text that's come in asking about Ben Mackay. Harry Mackay is getting a lot of attention at the moment at Carlton, but his brother's just going along quite nicely at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. I think Ben's been working really, really hard on his craft over the last few years, and it's really good to see him get that reward. He's pretty much shutting down every single opponent that he's playing on. If he keeps this up, he's definitely headed in the direction of an All-Australian sort of squad member, if not in the team, the way he's going, because every single time he's very task-oriented and he's very focused on his man, and he'll do everything to take him out. So, I think everyone's starting to look forward to a Harry versus Ben matchup in a few months.
Well, you've got a match up this week that people are intrigued about too. You've got Collingwood at Marvel Stadium on Saturday
A
afternoon.
lot of people are barracking for you, Todd.
4:35.
Is there a bit of focus on this game, is there?
Well, there'll be a little focus in this game, Todd. You may or may not be aware of this. The Magpies aren't flying just at the moment either. And you could really start to make that place explode if you win on the weekend. Are these the sort of things that are referenced from the players, just even in a bit of jest? Or does David Noble use it as ammunition to fire you up to put a rocket up you guys? Do you use this sort of stuff?
Well, it's been a short week. We haven't actually really turned our focus to Collingwood just yet. Today's our day off.
Yep.
Yesterday was our first day back in, so I was reviewing the game and trying to take the learns out of last week's game. So it hasn't come up yet. I think obviously, you'd have to be under a rock to not be aware of this situation. But the only real comment so far is that we're expecting a pretty fired up and a pretty angry Collingwood to come out, and we're expecting them to throw their best punch because that they've got their backs to the wall, and I think that's the main focus for us is knowing that they're going to come out and they're going to want to have a good performance.
It's a very professional answer, and I expected nothing less from you. Is David giving you any feedback about that pesky John Noble from Collingwood?
No, I'm the
Pesky?
only. I think he did throw out the warning that if anyone touches his son, that they'll have to answer to him. So that might be a few nervous boys that are playing around John. But no, I think I think probably the coaches might have a little bit a fair idea of how Collingwood play and should be able to give us a fair bit of education on that. Given I think we've got two of our coaches with sons playing there, so
Of course, yeah.
so that I think that gives us a little bit of help there, but no, I think Nobes will be pretty happy if we don't let his son have a kick this
Well, I
week.
can guarantee you this. There'll be a lot of eyeballs on the TV and at Marvel Stadium watching you in action. North Melbourne, Collingwood, 4:35 Saturday afternoon. Your first possible win for the year might be the biggest one in football in quite some time for many and varied reasons. Good luck to you, Todd. Great to see you, mate. Go get him.
Cheers, thank you very much.